What's going on, everybody? I appreciate all of you out there who submitted your favorite pickup from the last month for the Midlife Community Show and Tell. There are some awesome cards, and I absolutely can't wait to share those soon. This week is going to be jam-packed, and I mean jam-packed. I have my normal Monday video. That's us right now. That's today. That's here. I've got Wednesday, my normal Q&A. I've got a video with my buddy Darren, our off-topic episode, where it's just the two of us talking hobby stuff that will probably come out either Friday or Saturday. Probably going to be Saturday. And then I've got a 3-part series that starts tomorrow. So there's been all this talk about the hobby and all the drama and all the shilling and all the comps and all the shenanigans and all the grading. And my question is, are we going to keep just talking about this? Are we going to do something about it? Last Thursday, I recorded with my buddy Mike of Junk Wax Hero for our what do we call it? I don't know. I always forget this. Service issues over on the Sports Card Clubhouse channel. Now, that episode posted on Saturday over on Spotify and Apple. If you are a podcast person, it will post on YouTube here on Thursday. And one of the things that came up when Mike and I talked was, okay, stuff has happened. Things are different. People are not sure what to believe. So now what? Now what are we going to do about it? So what I'm going to do about it is I'm going to talk about next steps. I'm going to talk about what should we believe, what should we not believe. And that's going to start tomorrow with an episode with my buddy Joe Perot. We recorded this yesterday on Sunday, and we just basically talked about, as hobbyists, as people who have been in the hobby for a long time, how are we feeling? How are we feeling, and how are we feeling about certain topics? Then starting to talk about next steps. Where do we go from here? Then on Thursday, I'm going to have Chris Hoge on. I'm going to record that with him on Tuesday. We're going to talk about the comp issue. How much has shilling affected comps? What does Card Ladder take from that? What is the point of the Card Ladder and other card comping apps? Are they valuation tools? Are they data tools? What exactly is the point? What is the goal of those different sites and apps? And I'm going to talk to him about that and what sorts of things Card Ladder is doing about the issues that we're all now becoming more aware of. And then, probably going to be Friday, I will have an episode with my buddy Jeremy Lee. Jeremy Lee of Sports Cards Live, the best live stream guy in the business. He is writing a book, and he's finishing a book, I should say. And the book is going to be all about population reports. It's going to be all about auction houses. It's going to be all about what does a comp mean? What are the takeaways? What are thoughts on it? And I'm going to talk to him about those topics in particular. And we're going to talk about that book that he has coming out. So you're going to be basically seeing me. You're seeing me right now if you're watching this on Monday. Tuesday with Joe Perot. Wednesday Q&A. Thursday Hoge. Friday with Jeremy Lee, Saturday with me and Darren. You, if you're not already sick of me, which some of you are, I understand. You'll be sick of me by Saturday afternoon. That said, a lot in store. I'm really excited about some of these conversations. But let's talk about last week's topic. This whole Dr. Beckett shilling conversation with Patrick Ryan. What are our takeaways? What has changed? Has our opinion on anything changed? And if so, what are the things that have changed? What are the things that have changed the most, if anything has changed? And by far, the most common response was people's opinions changed about Dr. Beckett. And we're going to look at those. And I'm not going to speak for other people. I'm going to share exactly what people wrote. And it's interesting what people had to say. It's really interesting what people had to say. And one of the reasons for this Monday episode is I think that there are a lot of collectors that watch YouTube videos but a very small number of those have channels, have a place to share their thoughts. Their thoughts are usually in the comments, and a lot of us read comments, but some of us don't. The point of these Monday episodes is to put your opinions front and center. It's to put the opinions of other people in the community, what they're thinking, how they're feeling about different topics, in front of people, front and center. Not down below in the comments, front and center on the screen. And you all spoke loud and clear, and you guys had opinions about other things too. You had opinions about comps, you had opinions about auction houses, you had opinions about other things, and we're going to look at all of those. But first, your thoughts about Dr. Beckett.
Some people said the biggest change for me is about Dr. Beckett. This first one said, I never thought the hobby was loaded with people with extremely high ethical standards. I love it. You always take a risk, from the dealers to the auctions to the grading of your cards. Shilling is just one of the many drawbacks in the hobby. I have to admit, when listening to Dr. Beckett, he absolutely fried my brain when saying shilling is okay if the intent is defensive shilling compared to offensive shilling. Patrick Ryan added, you just do not want the idiots to get a good bargain. Yes, let's fix the price as high as we can, Patrick. I was hiking with my dogs listening, as I do often with Dr. Beckett, but could not believe what I had heard and had to later re-listen. Very sad, but gambling has always been part of the hobby, which gives it that exciting edge. I have been shilled, sold fake autographs, trimmed cards, fake memorabilia, and poorly graded cards. Although it was shocking to hear Dr. Beckett's view, the hobby is what it is, and I will continue to enjoy the pursuit. This next one says the shilling drama has affected my opinions on a few things, but mostly on Mr. Beckett. After his 2 podcast episodes in which he defended shill bidding, I now have to question every price comparison ever published in any magazine, website, or app. The entire hobby feels like it was built on a foundation of sand. I have to wonder if Mr. Beckett has always been in favor of market manipulation, or if this is a view he has adopted in the last decade. I now have to question if he knowingly published prices that had been manipulated by others. Unfortunately, these are all questions that have come to mind since the release of the 2 podcasts with Mr. Ryan. I realize that I will never know the answer to any of these questions that I now have, and would likely have little confidence in any answers that I would receive. Unfortunately, in life, one's trust is simultaneously the most valuable and most fragile thing we have. Once trust is lost, becomes near impossible to ever regain. Of course, this is just my opinion, and I am usually wrong. Another comment says, my thoughts is Dr. Beckett hurt not only his reputation, but the reputation of companies he was a part of. As far as shill bidding is concerned, I get Dr. Beckett's arguments, but I would argue the market is trying to correct itself if the card is not getting the amount expected. With Beckett's admission, he is against the market correcting itself. I would also tell Dr. B to his face, if you don't want a card selling for so low, then set a minimum so it doesn't sell for lower than that amount, or a buy it now price so you can get what you want. There are defensive measures he could have taken without defensive shill bidding to look good. Now he has opened himself up to an FBI investigation because he is in the name they can make news with. It's time Beckett removes himself from the business because he can't be trusted. This next one says, I suppose I should have written in last week, but missed the prompt. You would have had 2 negative comments. By the way, if you look at all the comments here, you'll see a lot more than 1 negative comment towards grading. I guess most people were just hesitant to chime in at the time. As for next week's question, Shilling is wrong, no matter what the concocted excuse. Not surprised to hear P. Ryan's deflection and lies, but expected much more of Dr. Beckett. He had 2 chances to get it right and failed miserably each time. I know it's just a matter of time before he posts some excuse-laden non-apology. But I will not be listening, as these attempts to put out the fire are always disingenuous and meaningless. The true colors already came out. My good buddy Carl from Australia says, my thoughts on the Shilling drama? We know it goes on. It's wrong and dishonest and unavoidable. We as collectors need to be firm and disciplined about what we will pay for a card and pass once our price is exceeded. That's not easy to do. As for Dr. Beckett embracing the concept of shill bidding, I think that's terrible and reflects badly on him and his cohorts. Shameful. And finally, Tony, Southern Collector 14, says, my answer for next week's question is that I'm not really surprised there are bad actors at work in our hobby. I always viewed Ryan with skepticism. The Beckett angle did bother me. He was supposed to be a hobby saint. I was looking forward to meeting him at the National YouTube Get-Together until it was canceled. Now I see him as just another guy that sees cards as a business. Cards are just a money-making enterprise, and to make the most, you can bend the rules guy. Now I don't really care if I meet him. He isn't a collector like me.
All right. I mean, some strong opinions. People are frustrated, and I understand. I absolutely understand people's frustration. You know, on last Wednesday, I had the question posed to me from a couple of people, what were my thoughts, and I shared them there, and I'm not going to, sit here and repeat myself. If you want to know my thoughts on the Dr. Beckett situation, it was the first question that was asked last Wednesday. Go check that out. It's tough when we put people on a pedestal, and sometimes we may not think that we do, but there's also when people are well known, when people are put on a pedestal, whether they want to be or not, there's a certain admiration that a lot of us will have for different figures in life. And I think at times we forget that all of us are flawed, and we also need to remember that everybody's human. I take my responsibility as a teacher very seriously. Like, I refuse to share any political beliefs or sway my students in any way politically, because my job is not to make decisions for them. My job is to inform them and give them the skills and the thoughts and the situations to put themselves in to be able to make their own good decisions. And I'm not interested in trying to tell others what they shouldn't do. That's why when I get questions on my Wednesday Q&A, whose cards should I buy? What set should I buy? What is the next thing you think is going to go up? It's like, I mean, we could talk about this just for fun, but I'm not giving advice that I'm not going to tell people what they should do. People should always do what they think, what their heart tells them. You have to trust your gut. You have to trust your heart. And we also have to keep in mind that everybody is flawed. And it doesn't matter if it's someone we grew up admiring. I mean, hey, I grew up as a kid. My favorite baseball player was Roger Clemens. And a lot of people will be very happy to tell me their thoughts about Roger Clemens. But you know what? I was a Roger Clemens fan as a kid. I just was. He's not a perfect person. Certainly not. I rooted for Tiger Woods. I remember watching that Nike ball fall into the hole on number 16 at Augusta and going on to win a Masters. I watched his first hug with his dad after he won his first Masters, his first major. I was on the 18th green when he made the putt to tie Rocco Mediate to go into a sudden death round on Monday, the next day, down at Torrey Pines. Tiger's flawed. Tiger's flawed as well. And people will say, something will come out and people will go, oh man, I don't like Tiger now. Oh, before that you thought he was perfect? We thought that the guy was perfect before we found out that he was, taking narcotics, before he was cheating on his wife, before whatever it was. Everyone is flawed. And sure, there are certain things that some people do that are probably worse than others. But the way I look at it is, we can't put other people on a pedestal because we will always be disappointed. As I said the other day, I've interacted with Dr. Beckett. I've had conversations with Dr. Beckett, but I don't know Dr. Beckett. I know that he released another video and he walked back some of his stuff, but he didn't walk it back as much as I think a lot of people had hoped. But I'm not going to sit here and pile on right now. I'm just going to say that these distractions are noise. And the noise is not particularly healthy for us to just sit and marinate in. We need to dust ourselves off and we need to move forward. And that's the whole point of this 3-part series I'm doing this week. Again, tomorrow with Joe Perot about where is he at mentally, because he's a collector, a longtime collector like most of us. Then I'm going to talk with Chris Hoge from Card Ladder, ask him about comps, reliability of comps, what is the point of comps? Are they changing anything? Do they eliminate shill bid cards? Do they eliminate certain auction houses? Why or why not? Just so we can hear directly from the source, from the best card app company. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? What is really the goal? And then from Jeremy Lee for a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then also some auction house stuff, some population report stuff, to just kind of get his kind of state of the hobby, given all of this change that we've been dealing with. It's time to move forward. We're going to move forward. We're in the process of, I hope, saying, I'm not leaving the hobby. I'm not exiting the hobby. So what I can do now is move forward. If my house is burning down, I could sit there for a month and just sit there and feel sorry for myself that I now have a pile of rubble. Or I could call the insurance company, a contractor, head on down and get some lumber and some nails and start to rebuild. And I think it's time to start the rebuilding process. I am sad about some things that have happened. I am disappointed about some things that have happened. And there have been some times I've been a little bit upset about it. But it's time to move forward. And my hope is that giving us all this opportunity today to actually get it off our chest. Because most of the people who are chiming in on these things don't have a channel. They don't have a place to vent and get it out. And I think you've got to get it out before you can move on. And that's a big part of this. Now, I know that there are frustrations about Dr. Beckett, but there are a lot of other questions that people now have. And that's what I want to take a look at next.
Some people said the biggest change for me is about the auction houses. This first one says, I've never bid in an auction house, and now I never will. Fortunately, I love high pop, high demand cards and don't have to play in the auction house space. I haven't lost respect for Dr. Beckett, but feel an astronomically large difference of opinion on the take that he had regarding defensive shill bidding. I love being that loser, to get a few copies of a certain card for cheap. Let the market be the market. Anytime Dr. Beckett, Patrick Ryan, or big-time whales talk about bidding in auction houses, I'll give a side eye and take whatever it is as a microscopic grain of salt. This next one says, "Hey Greg, I think Shillinggate is a wake-up call for everybody in the hobby. We all want this to be something honest and pure, but unfortunately, sometimes it's not. Buying cards at a show eliminates a lot of the questions of online and auction house buying. We never know what's going on behind the scenes of an auction, no matter if it's eBay or an auction house. One idea to help lessen this could be for auction houses to start doing what eBay started for some auctions. Bidders have to provide a credit card, and once the auction ends, your credit card is immediately charged. This would hurt someone who would be trying to shill a card if they ended up as the winner. Doesn't affect non-winning bids, unfortunately. As for Jim Beckett, he's definitely an icon in the hobby and has always struck me as a nice guy, but I've never really understood the worship. The same collectors that look up to him would never have a slab in their collection that has his last name on it. Granted, I know he no longer owns Beckett, but just the point." This next one says, "I personally think that this shill bidding is hurting the hobby in that it is creating distrust in all auction platforms. It's not giving the common collector a chance to own a card that resembles their childhood. I feel if you are bidding on your own card or having friends or family bidding on your card instead of letting nature take its course, states that deep down you never truly want to get rid of that card. As much as I hate to say it, it makes me lose respect for Dr. Beckett. We idealized, as youth, his opinion on a lot growing up with card values, that we forgot that he is just a person in the long run and always wants to make as much off of something as it is human nature to do so. Same goes to Ryan, but I feel the shill bidding being exposed shows their true view of the hobby. They are not in it for the hobby, but just like all other investors. Don't get me wrong, I am all about getting what you can for a card if you're selling it, but to deceive and manipulate to this extreme is just unjust, unfair, and ruins a reputation." And finally on this one, it says, "As for the shill bidding scandal, it hasn't changed my opinion about anything in the hobby. There are always people not playing by the honorable rules. This is just part of life. If you are managing an auction house, you should be building protection against shill bidding. If you aren't at least trying to eliminate it, people will lose trust in you. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but when it is exposed, there will be consequences, meaning people will stop playing with you."
So my first thing I would say is just because somebody or some group is in a category, it doesn't make them all guilty, right? You can't say, oh, well, everybody that lives on my street is an awful person because that one guy came out and yelled at the little kid walking down the sidewalk. We're not all guilty here. We are not all guilty. And not all auction houses are guilty. See, the thing about auction houses is they all have their own set of rules. And I love auctions, and I love auction houses. To me, it's fun. It's Christmas morning when some of those catalogs show up, when some of the previews open. I get really, really excited. And there are several auction houses that I have participated in, and I will participate in, but there are others maybe not so much. There are others who their rules are not really that good. My buddy John, 3D 80s fan, 3D 80s kid, sorry John. He did an episode about what some of the rules are from some of the auction houses. He made a spreadsheet. In fact, I'll try to grab it and throw it on the screen here, right here. And I I appreciate the work that he put into this to provide some information on some of the auction houses to give us a little bit of an idea about who's playing fair and who's not. Here's the thing. I don't think every auction house is bad. I think a lot of auction houses are trying to put things in place to prevent bad actors. But bad actors are constantly looking for ways to find a way to cheat the system. It will always be that way. In anything that involves money, greed will always try to find a way to exploit the situation. I agree that auction houses people should be leery in general, but people need to do some homework. People need to look. If I'm an auction house right now, what I would do is I would come out, I would look straight into the camera, and I'd say, here are our rules, and here's what I am doing to try to prevent bad actors. This is what we're about. Because ultimately, there are some auction houses whose job is to protect the buyers. And there's some auction houses, at least who think their job is to protect the buyers. Some, they're more worried about the consigners. So part of the problem is, if they don't protect the consigners, if they don't do what the consigners want, they're not going to get the good stuff. But if they don't look out for the buyers, then the buyers are going to get ripped off, and there won't be any buyers to bid on this stuff. Well, I think that my response would be, I'm a customer of the auction houses, and I want the auction houses that are going to look out for me. Because by looking out for me, they're looking out for the innocent person. That's not to say that consigners aren't innocent. You know what I'm trying to say, guys. You know what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, I think auction houses have a responsibility to look out for their consigners, but they also have a responsibility to look out for their bidders. And it definitely feels like some, based on their rules, are looking out for the consigners and their own commissions way more than they're looking out for the buyers. But I think they need to do both. So I understand some people have had some opinion shifts on Dr. Beckett. I understand that. I understand some people are a little bit unsure about some of the auction houses. Again, I don't think it's all. I think it's some. But I also know that some people are not really sure what to think right now about comps.
Some people said the biggest change for me is about the card values. This comment says, the fallout for me is I look at scarce cards differently. I know for a fact I have been bid on a lot of cards that never actually sold and took that hammer price as a mental comp for the next go around. So are the scarce cards I generally look to buy really selling regularly at these currently inflated levels? Or once this false reserve bidding goes away, are the price floors going to drop out from under me? There is a lot of talk about how much more expensive oddball pre-war and especially oversize has gotten. Is it really a natural increase? It's not a massive concern as I'm not really selling anything. But if I want to sell, I don't really want to take a bath on these in the future either.
I think that I probably look at these card pricing apps differently than some people. I have never looked at one of these apps and said, this app tells me what my card is worth. That's not really what I've ever, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's, and I'm going to ask Hoj this. Is that the point of your app, to tell me what my cards are worth? What I thought, and what I've always used these card comping apps as, because People will tell me, oh my gosh, I put all my cards into my collection and my collection is worth this amount. Okay. That's not for me what I use Card Ladder for. I use Card Ladder, and what I've used any card pricing app or any eBay sold searches or anything as data points. It's information. When I look on Zillow on my street to see what other houses have sold for, that to me doesn't tell me what my house is worth. It tells me what that house sold for. And based on what that house sold for, it could help me determine what my house is worth. Doesn't mean it's going to be the same just because we have the same floor plan. It just gives me some information. And sometimes I look on Zillow and I see certain data points and I go, that seems weird. Somebody really paid that much for that house? That must be a heck of a kitchen. That must be some fantastic countertops. I don't think of it that way. I think of it as some information. It doesn't paint, again, this is just me. To me, a card app, a card comping app, it pulls data to provide me information to show pieces of the picture of the situation. But it doesn't show the whole picture. If you think that using a card comping app is going to tell you everything you need to know about a card, I don't. You got to use some discernment. You've got to look at when it sold, where it sold. If there's a little tiny auction house that I've never heard of, and the card sells for not very much, that is different than if the card sells for not very much on eBay. There's probably less eyeballs on this little tiny auction house that I've never heard of. And if there's less eyeballs on it, there's potentially less demand. There's more to the story than just the selling price. It's what was that card worth on that day with the people who saw it and were aware of it, which is different than what is it worth. I believe these apps are giving me data, which I need to utilize that data to look around and look at my card versus those cards and then make a decision of what I think that one is worth. When people say, oh man, I'm not paying that, that's way over comp. What comp? That's just some data. Have I ever paid more than comp for a card? Oh, yes, I have. Because I think the card was undergraded. I think the card in this place is better because I don't have to maybe pay sales tax. They're not going to charge me sales tax in person. They're not going to, have a shipping fee. I don't have to risk the card being shipped across the country. There are other things at play besides just the sale price. That's how I look at it. I don't know if that's how other people look at it. I don't know if I'm on an island all by myself, like, Castaway, and I'm sitting there looking at a volleyball as my best friend. Like, I might be the only guy that thinks that. That's the way I look at it. These sites provide me data. And the thing I like about Card Ladder is it provides me the most data. It provides me data that goes back further than the others. And when I'm looking at rare cards that don't transact very often, to me, the longer the amount of data, the more important it is. If a card is only sold 4 times in the last 20 years, I think that's kind of good to know. And you might say, who cares what it sold for in 2017? I do. I care what it sold for in 2017 because if it sold for that in 2017 and it sold for this other number in 2024, that shows me a growth rate. That shows me a progression. If a card sold for $2 in 2017, $3 in 2017, $4 in 2018 and then didn't sell again until 2025 and it sold for $50,000, I would go, I don't know about that $50,000 sale. It provided me some information. And again, that's how I use the tools. That's how I use it. I don't use it as their valuation is the be all and end all. That's just not what I do. But again, I'm going to have this conversation with Hoj and see what he has to say. Sports Card Clubhouse, my buddy Mike, Junk Wax Hero Mike, on Saturday, he had Teapot on, and they talked a little bit about this topic, and Teapot had some really interesting things to say, some of which I thought was a little bit accusatory, a little bit presumptuous, and a lot of it I totally agreed with. Again, I like Teapot. And I thought Mike did a great job with the interview. If you haven't seen it yet, Sports Card Clubhouse, check it out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to Sports Card Clubhouse. But I'm going to ask Hoj, where does Hoj stand on these things? It's data. It's data that helps paint a picture, but it doesn't paint the whole thing.
And as always, sometimes it's just kind of complicated. This one says, great video, Greg. As for your question this week, the recent shill bidding controversy isn't going to change the way I participate in the hobby. I try to purchase most of my cards by auction, and I'll continue to bid up the price I'm comfortable with and not engage in bidding wars. However, that's not to say that the controversy hasn't dampened my mood about the state of the hobby. Like any corner of life where there's opportunity to make a profit, the hobby will continue to be exploited by greed and bad actors, as it has been for decades. A little while ago, you made several videos about whether we care too much about the value in the hobby. For me, it's controversies like this that provide a resounding yes to that question.
So much good stuff in that comment. So much good stuff. Number one, you have to stick within the price that you're comfortable to pay for a card. And as humans, I think that we tend to get a little bit caught up in FOMO, a little bit caught up in competition, and at times we just want to buy something and we get carried away with the price. I really think if you're not using some of these snipe top type websites and apps, I really think you should consider it. I use one called Gixxen. I think it's like $7 a year. And I could put in any bid on any eBay item and it will bid whenever I want. It could bid with 3 seconds left, 12 seconds left, any amount that I want. And what I can do is I can go and I can look at the comps. I could look up at the data points. I could look up at this card, the pros and cons of this card. And I can say, I'm comfortable paying this amount. And then I could set that amount. And then I can forget about it and not get caught up in it. I think now, with a lot of the thinking that there could be things going on, some shenanigans that are going on, I think they've always been going on. They might be going on more than before because values have gotten to where they are. But I think that this might be a time to really think about doing that. Now, I did a video on Gixxen like 2 years ago. I guess I could try to dig it up and share it out, and maybe I will, although I've got so many videos coming up this week. I don't know. Your significant other's going to hate me if you watch all of it. I just think that we have to stay disciplined. And the other part of that comment that I really liked is I've been kind of bummed out. I've been kind of bummed out for the last couple of weeks. This is my escape. And I know I've said this, but I'm ready to move on. I'm not going to continue to just wallow in sorrow. I am now choosing to look at comps. What do I think from this point on about comps and how they've been affected? I'm going to look closer at some of the different websites and some of the different auction houses, and I am going to choose which ones I do and don't want to use. That's what I'm going to do. But that doesn't mean I'm right. That doesn't mean that I'm doing the right thing and other people aren't. But there are auction houses that after I do a little bit of research, I probably won't use. I am going to continue to use comps the way I've used comps as data points and not a complete and thorough evaluation of the value. That's why I sometimes pay over comp. I have preferences in my cards and the things that the features that they have that other people might have different features. So I bought a T206 Christy Mathewson portrait at Strongsville, and some people might look at it and go, that thing's a dog, because the corners are rough. They are honest corners. They are very honest corners. But I love the color. I love the image. I love the registration. And I love the centering. And so I was willing to pay over comp for that card because it had the characteristics of what I want. And when I looked at some of those other comps, I take them all with a grain of salt. They give me a foundation of thoughts on the value, but they're not the only indicator of value. I'm moving forward, and this week, I hope that you move forward with me. We are going to be talking about all sorts of stuff with Hoj, with Joe Perot, with Jeremy Lee. Each and every week, I really like hearing from all of you. I really like having you all have an opportunity to share your thoughts front and center on the screen. So here is my question for all of you for next week. Because next week is MidLife Live number 11. Monday is MidLife Live number 11. And so here's what I want to do, because I usually like to ask a couple of my questions on screen ahead of time to the guys and share with you on screen the answers that they had given me ahead of time. But I want you guys to share some of those questions. So, my question for this week is, what do you want the panel to talk about at MidLife Live number 11? I want down below you to put the question that you want us to talk about. And at this point, I haven't shared with you really who's going to be on the panel. But I'll tell you this. It's going to be the same guys. So, later this week, you will see a preview, but I want to hear from you on your thoughts. What do you want featured on MidLife Live 11? Ask that in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from all of you. Have a good week. There is a lot of me that will be coming at you. I hope you at least consider watching some of it.